which is tea, sugarcane, maize, and agriculture in the country, especially in my county, is on deathbed. So our second most important resource was shall be sports, especially athletics. So that is why some of us are very keen when athletics is not working. And this statement is made in good faith and in the interest of Kenyans and many unspoken sportsmen and women of this country who continue to suffer under the unfortunate mismanagement of sports. And sports is what has defined Kenya as a country. As you are aware, sports continue to define Kenya as one of the... In fact, the reason Kenya is known is because of sports, more so athletics. So, in fact, sports has done much more than brand Kenya. And as a country, we must be always at the forefront. So these are a very short statement. You remember last time I raised about Tokyo Olympics. This is a misappropriation of sports fund by the Ministry of Sports, Heritage and Culture. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. I've called you on just concluded World Athletics Under-20 Championship that took place in Nairobi Kasarani Stadium in September 2021, immediately after Tokyo Olympics 2020. It seems the cost of corruption, mismanagement of sports fraternity continues to haunt us since Rio Scandle of 2016. Notably, World Under-20 Championships points a clear issue of presence of all staff and federations without their proper law is suspect, noting that the upcoming elections that is scheduled for the various federations. For example, Ferdinand Omanyala, the 100 meters African record holder, coach, could not be admitted into the stadium since most of the NOC, AK, and Ministry of Sports officials were given more priority in court. It is shocking to note that there were more officials than the athletes to enable them gain allowances, take selfies, and have opportunity for their girlfriends and slay queens into the stadium. The appointment also of sports editors, specifically 4, was never clear, as they were there to sanitize and agree for the grand mega scandal of eating a lot of resources that were allocated during the event. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, sports fund has over 30 billion that was allocated, but is now being misappropriated by the Ministry of Sports. For example, Hoodball. Who knows Hoodball? The Timber Hoodball Championship was allocated Kenya shillings 31 million. I don't know whether Hoodball, it is called mpira wa timba. Yani mpira wa inaitwaje timba in Kiswahili? Mpira wa mbao imepewa 31 million. Yani kuna Kenya hii championship ya mbao ya milioni 31. Pia martial arts kung fu. Sijui kama hii Chinese walikuja naye hii Kenya. Wamepewa 80 million kung fu. Wamepewa 80 million, and their offices that not exist. They are nowhere to be seen, but they are cobbling 80 million. So I don't know whether Kenya, why the Ministry of Sports would want to train Kenyans on kung fu, unless the security officers are failing their jobs, like that we need personal training of kung fu. And it is threats also to domestic, because it can increase gender-based violence in our homes. Because if men are trained with kung fu, you can imagine our homes will become Baghdad. And then another one, what happens to the mainstream sports such as football, volleyball, athletics, boxing, and many other fraternities? Because if you are locating football or mchezo wa mbao milioni 31, na unaweka mchezo wa miereka milioni 81, sasa utafanyaje mambo ya football, mambo ya athletics, mambo ya volleyball, mambo ya rugby? Another example is the expenditure of 23 billion of Kisumu Stadium in Kirinyaga, Wanguru, and Kirigiti in Kiambu County, where they gobbled 23 billion. Yet those those standards of those nini fall below by the FIFA standards. And yet they took more than 23 billion. As we talk, Kirigiti Stadium, Wanguru Stadium, Kisumu Stadium in Kisumu County have cobbled 23 billion. But when you go there, it is so substandard, and even the materials are done there. Hata Zizi la Ng'ombe is better than those stadiums. So it shows that money was eaten over 23 billion. Therefore, in the interest of accountability, I wish to call upon Ethics and Anti-Corruption and DCI to move with speed and investigate this colossal makers corruption that is in sports and which are being presided over by ministry officials. I have drawn this, apart from the Tokyo Olympics 2020 scandal, I have drawn the attention of the Senate on the matter, especially the Labor Committee, Social Welfare and the Sports. So ladies and gentlemen of the press, what we are just saying is that the misuse of sports fund continues daily in and out. And we have 30 billion that should have used to nurture sports academies, to nurture the role of our sportsmen and women, to nurture mainstream sports, especially like football, volleyball, rugby, and many others. I know as a country we might want to venture into new sports, but the Ministry of Sport should be honest, because in the world we have never heard about mchezo wa mbao ambaye inachezwa. Tujua labda mbao ndio inacheza 31 million, mambo ya kumfu I don't know 81 million. Umeona zile substandard imekuchukua 23 billion. Yet the same you'll hear favor saying those stadium do not mean. Na unajua hiyo 23 billion inaweza jenga ile Emirates ile najua hii italeta Emirates, hii watu ya Arsenal wanajua vizuri, Old Trafford hiyo inaweza jenga kabisa ya kimataifa. Najua kuna kuumia ukisema hivyo, lakini we are not talking about whether Arsenal will win or not, but what we are talking about is the infrastructure that is already there. So my humble plea is that the EACC and DCI should move with speed. I have called upon the Senate to also move with speed and investigate and ensure that anybody who has misused the sports fund, and we'll smoke them out. They will not, they can go and write what they want to do. They can, mimi nimejitolea kutetea wachezaji wote na wakimbiaji wote, si wakimbizi, wakimbiaji wote na wale wachezaji wa michezo mbalimbali. Hata wakijaribu kuintimidate some of us or blackmail, we shall not give in. Mine is to ensure that the money that is allocated for sports fund, and we are aware finally that some people are drawing these funds from sports fund to use for political campaigns. And when time comes, we'll then name and shame them. But in the interest of the country, I think the head of sports, the CS, Amina Mohammed, and the senior officials in NOC, and the senior officials in Athletics Kenya, and all the federations must resign to protect the integrity. If they mean well, they should resign for allocating 31 million kwa mchezo ya mbao and 80 million kwa mchezo ile ya kalongolongo ambayo watoto wanacheza ama inaitwa kumfu. Asanteni sana, unless there is any question apart from that. But for you to understand better, I will leave a copy of the presser so that you can get the gist. Any question? So that is in short, I think hiyo kwa Kiswahili, that is what I can say at the moment, and we hope in fact in the next 14 days, although the president had given out 21 days before, I want just to give EACC 14 days or 15 days. Apart from there, if the Senate will not take action, we are ready to do private prosecution as per the law, so that if the DCI and DPP and EACC do not move with speed, and we have evidence of the same, that this money has been allocated for other ventures outside the sports. And I want to advise Ministry of Officials that the energy should be more on the field. We don't want energy to be on the field of other things like bedrooms or what have you, but we want them to be on the field. Let them put their energy where it deserves, so that we can protect the young people and the generation of we can go. So leo hatutasema mambo ya siasa.
Maybe for clarification,
yes.
I would like to maybe Do you recommend the resignation of the CS, sports CS?
Yes, I think I've just said, because looking at this mega scandal that is happening, it behooves. What we happen in Tokyo, we saw mismanagement of our sportsmen and women. We are seeing under-20 mismanagement. We have seen at sports fund 30 billion, already mismanagement has been shown. So in the interest of Kenyans and to protect even his name, our name, should just resign the officials of AK, the officials of NOC, the officials of various federations who are presided over, who have been the priests on the altar of corruption and aggrandizement, must resign. And I know if DCI and EACC decide to work on this thing, I can assure you within 14 days somebody should be behind the bus. Because we can't risk our future. The moment you mismanage sports, it means you are mismanaging the future of this country, and you are also destroying the international. For example, you remember the other day when the Agnes Tirop was buried. Even the CSS could not come and condole with the family. Even her coffin was not even draped with a national flag. Yet the only time that the national anthem has been sung, you remember, even India. India is one of the biggest democracies, but they have never had a privilege of their national anthem being sung in an international event. But she carried our flag outside the country. Even the CS, even the Ministry of Sports, CS only to have courtesy of attending even our funeral, of even providing a state funeral for our fallen hero. They could do it. It shows you how sports are sunken too long. And we can't allow to that direction. If there is nobody else, I think the best is to allow the Ministry of Sports to run without the CS and any other these officials, because they are just destroying our careers of many young people. Look at the issues of doping. We agree that we should fight and ensure that our people should not participate in doping. But the Ministry of Sports have been complacent. They have been extorting from athletes. You have had, even whenever you want to go and run abroad as an athlete, you come to the Athletics Kenya Riadha House, you are told if you win the race, a half will belong to the cartels within the Athletics Kenya. So those are things, and most of these young people, there is nothing as bitter as using your sweat and blood to win something. And then somebody sitting somewhere, enjoying himself and some breeze in some part of the coast or in beaches, then somebody just waits for you to come and eat their money. So what we are saying is that she has failed in her role. She had really failed to rein on the running of the sports ministry in this republic. And I can tell you, if the investigation of 30 billion sports fund is investigated properly, the PS, the CS, and senior ministry officials should be behind bar for corruption and threatening our future and posterity. Yeah. Hiyo mambo ya Jubilee tutasema. Yes, in fact, maybe before you go there, my brother, on Tokyo Olympics, I have given the evidence to, and I want to thank some editors there who went to, or sports reporters who went to Tokyo. I have evidence, but I can't disclose the name, where the ministry official wanted to buy him or her. At this point, let me use him or her. She or he declined and refused the money and paid and said the media house had sent me and catered for this thing. So on the issue of Tokyo, I've supplied with the evidence. On this one, as the mismanagement, I've already in talks with the EACC and DCI. And of course, with the interest and ensuring that we protect we shall reveal those information when they appear before Senate. But because of the sensitive nature of the matter, we have already provided the necessary evidence to the relevant agencies. Even the one for Tokyo, including where Kipchoge was using economic class. The gentlemen who are just relaxing were using business class. And business class has more legroom. And when you are in economy and you are running tomorrow, you saw our lady who became number 2 in marathon. She traveled today, the following day she's running. And yet Wadozi, our ministry official, went 2 weeks. They were sightseeing and taking selfies in Tokyo. So those are some of the things that we need to rectify as a country for betterment of all of us. Hiyo mambo ya Jubilee tutasema siku ingine. Tukifukuzwa, we will come and say it. I know Jamhuri would want to